We have next up is Goldstein, who's a meteorologist, and we're talking about weather. So Dave, come on up.
Thanks, Paul. Welcome to Whittier. I apologize for the bad weather here. When I look outside over and look at the rain and the clouds over here, this is pretty typical of what's been going on for the last several weeks. So I decided to take a trip and see if summer was really in Alaska, and got up to the Tanana Valley, and I can assure you that it is, and it will come here. It's just not here now. If we look at the slides, you can start it. It should be, everybody knows Prince William Sound. Of course, large area with just a lot of challenges. So let's look at some of the observations in and around the Sound. This is a picture of the Marine Exchange system over on the ferry terminal. Pretty interesting system. If you look at the bottom there, there's actually data from that. This is past data. The beauty of this is it's 24 hours a day. This happens to be a picture of the Middleton Island radar. And you can see this is obviously taken in the summertime. A little golf ball type structure there in the distance is the radar itself. Of course, observations also involve balloons. The tanks that are in that little shack there are helium tanks. The Weather Service uses hydrogen, and they have a very sophisticated system for sending these balloons up. There are 12 National Weather Service sites around Alaska. So it gives you a good idea of what's going on aloft too. Two types of satellites. We have a polar orbiting satellite that's about 550 miles above the Earth, and the geostationary satellite. We have two in the US. They're close to 23,000 miles above the Earth. The Ocean Observing System, I saw Scott over here. This is from his organization. You can see all of the data points that are available on this. The gray ones are tide stations. The other ones contain weather information, and some have video on them too. Marine Exchange has set up a little infrastructure there too, as far as systems around the state, especially congregated around Southeast Alaska. The Weather Service, the Alaska region or the Western region, came up with this data display here, and that's available on the net too. As you zoom in, you get more data. As you zoom out, you get less. What goes into a forecast besides what we just saw? Well, of course, satellite pictures, pretty important. It gives weather forecasters, private and public, just an idea of what's going on in the atmosphere. Of course, radar, thanks to our Middleton Island radar, the radar is situated around the state. We can see progress of systems, showers, and fronts themselves. General use, National Weather Service forecasts. This happens to be a more recent display of the areas that the Weather Service has broken down in Prince William Sound, which is a tremendous improvement over the past, where there was one forecast for the whole Sound. National Weather Service versus private forecasts. Well, National Weather Service, advanced forecast technology, basically 24 hours a day, and national support, an advanced dissemination system, wide customer base, dedicated forecast offices. Problems, forecaster bias, a lot of forecasters involved, large coverage areas, data network problems, staffing in Alaska, and limited ability to fine-tune forecasts. This happens to be my website. It basically has forecasts that are gratis for the Whittier area, and also other weather information here. We'll take a look at some of these in a little more detail. I also have about 4 sites that you may find interesting or have weather information. I have a couple of sheets, copies of that, if anybody's interested in that too. If we can go back to the slides now, I think 8. And if we click on the Alaska Ocean Observing System, point, control, click. Okay, here you go. Yeah, it's that. So it'll populate here. And if we can just use the plus on the top left and just kind of zoom in around Prince William Sound, maybe a little couple of, that's good. you can see all of these data points around the sound. And if you hover over, for example, the Port Wells buoy in green there, you can see information from it. If you look down towards Hinchinbrook Island, there's information there. Seal Island is in between Smith and Green Island. That also has a remote weather system. Of course, in the Whittier area, there's several reporting sites, as well as Prince William Sound Portage Visitor Center. There's a system over there too. We go on to the next slide. If we go to the weather, if we go to weather in the bottom map of weather stations, right. Just click on that. And we can zoom up on that too. Okay. Let's go over to the Whittier site over there at the ferry terminal. Just click on that. Okay, and this has a graph also. So you can see where the peak wind was. It also has temperature information. It has a wind rose on there too. Of course, the current information is posted up in the top part. Next slide. There's also another system over at Piggott Point that's had some problems lately. I'm not sure if it's up now or not. I think that's slide 10. Okay, this is a really, just a good source of information. If you go to the observations, click on that on the top right. And then just click on the down to the left a little bit where it says hover. Down right there. Yeah. Okay. If you, and you can actually blow this up. If you can just go to the graph or the little table over there on the right and click the all where it says like density all the way on the right. Just the all down where it says all. Yep.
Oh, there we
go. Right, there you go. Yeah. Okay, this will populate for all the stations here that are around Whittier. We also have Portage over there, and if you hover over these stations, you can see what the actual conditions are right at that particular time. If you want a history, there's also a 3-day history. So if you have any complaints or insurance claims or whatever, you can go to that too. There is a problem with that Bear Valley sensor. And I don't know what happened, but this thing has been off as far as wind direction for 2 years. I've tried to work with the DOT and don't seem to be able to connect with the right person there. So one of these days that'll be fixed too. If you zoom back out on that, again, you can pretty much get information in turning an arm. You can get information. There's a report over at the Wally Nuremberg Hatchery. That's a climatological station also. And of course, when you're coming down, you can see what the wind conditions are. Courtesy of Department of Transportation, they have a road weather information system. Also, the railroad has some systems on their routes too. You also have some of the avalanche sites. I think Sunburst, I think, is one of the sites very high up, and there's also one on the glacier over on the Kenai Peninsula too. So, okay, we can go to the next slide there. Click on the satellite imagery, and we can actually see what's going on at the present time. It's a frontal system that's moving basically almost into us, just passed by the Anchorage area. You can zoom up on that too. And the low clouds, this is a visual shot. Satellite imagery basically comes in a lot of flavors. You can have the visible shot, the infrared shot, which basically is great at night. There are also different channels, so you can enhance low clouds. If you look back in the eastern Gulf of Alaska, that's all fog and low clouds. You can see how it's breaking up as the day progresses. And there's also a water vapor channel. So you can see these plumes. You've heard of these rivers, atmospheric rivers, bringing heavy rains into the west coast. You look off of southeast Alaska, just to the extreme south part of the Queen Charlotte's and Vancouver Island, all of that is low clouds. So these visible shots are really good. The problem is that, of course, in the wintertime, you don't have a lot of visible light. So rely more on infrared and then on the different channels that are available for that too. Next slide. Okay, the radar, and this is a current radar, so you'll actually see a little bit about the precipitation here in the sound. When you get into the dark colors, that's usually lighter precipitation. Of course, the farther you get from the radar, which happens to be at Middleton Island, there's another one at Kenai, you get not as much information. You can see when it gets into the greens, that's some pretty good precipitation or low freezing levels. And you get into the yellows, those are some pretty intense local rains too. Of course, the scale shows it goes up to red and purple. In the lower 48, you may see a lot of those. Here, once in a blue moon, you'll see some of these red colors also. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. Okay. I think the Anchorage one, basically what I wanted to show is you can click on these and get a worded forecast for that particular area. The problem is if you're basically looking at a large area and the ability to resolve a lot of the small scale differences really isn't there. This is an example of the worded forecast over there too. Next slide. Okay, just give you kind of a look at what this does, and you can kind of look at the Whittier forecast over there, which is at the top left in yellow. Just click on that. And basically this was updated at 9/25, and this I think went 6 or 7 days out into the future. And there's information there. The further out you go in time, of course, less reliable forecasts are. Weather Service, years past, was probably good for about 3 days, and then the reliability decreased significantly. Now you can look at 5 to 7 days, and oftentimes there's quite a bit of confidence in that forecast. I think there may be one more slide. That's probably a good place to end and just ask if there are any questions. Great. Well, thanks very much. Enjoy your lunch.